Hello and welcome to Diary of a Content Curator, number 1. This is going to be an unfiltered stream of consciousness version. Hopefully, well, no, we're not committing to timestamps at this point in time. Personally, I feel compelled to just start somewhere. When I first started this journey, I was trying to game plan it out. Okay, so wait, I have information about being a content consumer, and then I have information about being a content curator, and then that transition to content creation. And I kind of wanted to speak to that. In previous entries, I've actually spoken about that, like, oh, I'm a content consumer. And just really pausing to hold space for that. No. I am a content consumer. But it's like, what does that mean for me? Well, for me, it's about telling and packaging my personal story as a reflection of the content that I consume. And in large measure, it's really impossible because that journey started long before I started curating content. I started curating content as a way to bookmark, to save, to showcase. Okay, well, do you have an idea? Do you have some interesting, unique culture commentary as a result of your synthesis over time, linking different elements? For some of the most wild and out there theories, you could see and you could be referred to esoteric culture commentary, or esoteric quick pick. For regular stuff, general stuff, but still not really general because it's still kind of heady. Our background is mostly in economics, politics, geopolitics, and news. So it's still going to be sort of coded with that slant. But I guess, hey, this is Diary of a Content Curator, so really we should be talking about, so what goes into the curation process? Is it just me doing a one-to-one for my consume digest, like saying, hey, I consume this, hey, this is fire content, this is useful content, hey, let me share it with you guys, let me share it with consumers out there? But I guess the real intent behind curation itself is just to act as a hypergraph edge. It's to say, hey, well, where are we at in terms of graph theory, information theory, information science? In the wake of thinking about information in terms of graphs, information in terms of hypergraphs, whoa, are we talking just content creators and content consumers? So this is the part where my train of thought gets really choppy, and it's not really localized, so I can't really focus on a specific point. It makes me wonder that is like meta reverb for consumers, like, hey, we didn't come to this podcast for lack of structure, or did we, they, ... It's always an interesting part of people in their content creation journey, right? Like, who exactly am I speaking to? Who are we speaking to in time, throughout time? I guess that's more culture commentary related to content creators. But really, I mean, what started this, like why we just decided to jump in here, right now, is because, hey, Diary of a Content Curator. I actually wanted to vent. I wanted to vent about not being able to live up to my own curation standards. I mean, I guess that's me sharing my dream with you as a consumer. Well, what is this dream? This dream is to come full circle on my journey as a content consumer. And maybe that's what I need to elaborate on. How did I get here as a content consumer? Well, I got here because I am a content consumer, first and foremost. Previously, we were doing some research trying to figure out maybe a little bit of statistics. We realized that the lane for content curation is most notably adjacent to content marketing in general. I mean, as a content consumer, pretty much everything nowadays looks like a content marketing operation, for better or for worse. That's just how the landscape operates. But for me, this was a journey of contempt in large respect, in large measure. Why? Because I just truly wanted to be a content consumer. Like I felt that there was a lane for that, and I felt entitled to be able to do that. And then I was spinning my wheels like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I mean, I feel like I get some value out of this, but is it just me? Is it like how do we, I'm trying to build in a framework for monetization. Like how do we, right? Because it's one thing to say, oh, hey, in the creator ecosystem, in the creator landscape, like, hey, you just, I mean, OG YouTube right now, OG social media, hey, like attention. Hey, I got an idea. Hey, I have a brand. I have a voice. Just project it. Hey, like follow the trend, like all of these different mechanisms of actions that bring people into content creation. But for me, it was like supply side versus demand side. I was sitting there like, coming from search as a power user. I mean, as a content curator, we say, okay, rule number 1, assume the content already exists. And then I guess as a part of the journey of this channel, we have to go back to the OG origins of search and how we think about search operators in terms of YouTube and what that means for our identity as a content curator and as a content consumer. But sticking with kind of this weird place that I was in as a content consumer, really expecting to provide value for myself and to close that gap in turn. I was like, but it's not economically feasible. My time spent. It's not economically feasible. My time spent. What do I do? Well, I don't think that was the first inclination in terms of, hey, do we monetize this? No, it was mostly like min-maxing, like trying to go to the nth level. Like, I am going to be the best content consumer that I can be. I'm the greatest to ever do it. What are you talking? Content consumption. Okay, is that like is that a personal thing, or what? Are you saying that you're an analyst? Do you have a report? Oh, so what are you consuming? What's that? It's like, no. But if I had to write something about it, then it would be creation. I'm not a content creator. No. You're not gonna make me a content creator. Who is making you a content creator? It's the ecosystem, right? It's the cybernetic ecology that has a specific directionality for publication and then monetization within that construct. And I feel like I found peace with that. But back to my story of just trying to min-max this and say, hey, no matter what, I'm going to be a content consumer. And I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. I guess the part of Diary of a Content Curator is saying I feel like I failed. Not as an absolute. We did a vocal diary entry maybe about half a year ago, maybe almost a year ago, where we were consuming content and it was like someone said, hey, but the algorithms have so much control now that it's like, So to spell that out, it meant, hey, are you, like, to what extent do you think you have control over your algorithm where you might not actually have as much control as you think? And a part of this journey is actually like giving that as an option to consumers out there, like actually saying, hey, did you know that downstream of using YouTube search operators, that you can actually tweak and manage your algorithm over time by using techniques such as playlist theory and trying to package that in a way that's useful, and then getting twisted and tongue-tied in between trying to bring forth like curation technique, bringing forth like playlist theory so that people can find value where I've found value in terms of managing my consume digest. But also reminding myself of the core mission and principle, which is just like, no, I consume such interesting content that I want to speak about, or at least that I want to see the environment speak about. But how would anybody know what sense of directionality to invoke without a little bit of guidance? So I guess that's the full circle of, Diary of a Content Curator. Hey, we're offering guidance here. Whether it's culture commentary in general, whether it's natural science, whether it's social science, whether it's esoteric culture commentary, whether it's financialization culture commentary, including information about related to the cryptocurrency markets, whether it's politics, whether it's what do we call it, security, our security quick pick, our what is it called, naturalist roots quick pick, and then all of these downstream derivatives and permutations. The reason I wanted to vent in terms of Diary of a Content Curator is because we're on our, I think it's fifth. I think we're legit on our fifth entry in our category specific quick picks for politics and social science. And ever since around 4, we realized that the velocity rate was just a little bit too high. We were churning through. For cat spec playlists, we started with, culture commentary, and then we open parentheses, 1, close parentheses, and we figured that would act as a sort of continuity. So that was a first order aspect of technique in terms of saying, hey, well, to a certain extent, after a certain, I like 400 videos, 500 videos in terms of macro playlists, and after those video counts, it gets to be really hard to manage it in terms of scrolling through those playlists, especially on mobile. So we figured, hey, can we keep this same singular playlist, this same singular category specific playlist, and can we carry it forward? ... So the first attempt at that was just saying, hey, same title, different number, culture commentary 1, culture commentary 2. And so we kept that going. With different playlist numbers, sometimes 250 videos, sometimes 400. In our Crypto 3 or Crypto 4 playlist, that was like a 9, maybe Crypto 2, 900 videos. It was like, oh, too much. So like that was a bit of technique as a curator, kind of learning like what that meant for me as a consumer, just using this as technique to manage my own consume digest, to say, okay, well, this is a part of the videos that I'm consuming. Hey, it's a continuous thread, but eventually it gets to be too much. And then over time, that velocity rate was just ticking up faster than I wanted. So we decided to experiment with it. And to this extent, we started our first category-specific derivative playlists, where for various category-specific playlists, now we do the bulk playlist, the main cat spec playlist, and then we have cat spec A, cat spec B, cat spec C, internal culture commentaries, like we use a television emoji for A fax machine emoji for B. No, a television emoji for A radio emoji for B, and a fax machine for C. And this has been interesting because for A, we keep it at date added newest. For B, we keep it at most popular in terms of the sort by for the playlist. And then for C, we keep it at date published newest. So now for that same bulk cat spec playlist, if it merits like main inclusion in the macro playlist, then we'll include it in the main playlist. And then if it fits into the schema but is better served in a derivative playlist, then we'll put it into a derivative playlist. And we've been able to chart out different stratigraphy. Like, it just looks different. It's a different content consumption experience. So that's kind of a part of my journey to kind of package those experiences that I've had as a content consumer using the tools and the techniques offered to me within the YouTube cybernetic ecology, and saying, well, how has my experience been shaped, and to what extent can we package this experience for others? So that was a long story, or pretty, useful, interesting, necessary, as I try to communicate what this experience has been, as I try to publish this technique and bring it forth to a larger cross-section of people, and to really get feedback, to feel like, can people actually find value from this in terms of managing their consume digest? Again, to double back and to go full circle, this was for Politics 5 and Social Science 5. So after we get about 50 videos into those first, when we first start a main core cat spec playlist, Social Science 5 and Politics 5, then after those first 50 videos, then we start creating the derivative playlists, and we add some of those videos to understand which ones and how we're feeling out, how we put it into A, B, and C. But we're running behind on that. And we're also running behind on, we started doing consume digest daily notes. So back to the whole, no, I'm just a content consumer. So in extending myself a little bit to create a little bit more, we started writing down, actually like copying over links to videos that we've consumed from our what is it called? Our synthetic watch history playlist. So that was back to, hey, do you think that maybe you've been broken by the YouTube algorithm, versus how would you know? So that's a whole story in and of its own journey, which we'll probably have to tackle that in another entry. I think we're going to make an attempt to keep these at 15 minutes, just so we can have a higher velocity of content. But I want to make sure that I spoke to what I wanted to talk about. So we talked about a Diary of a Content Curator #1, and we mentioned kind of our experience as being a content consumer first and foremost. How did we get here? Yeah, we got here because of infinite content. Doing the research on, well, who's actually consuming content on YouTube and how long are they consuming content? Listen, we consume about 21, it's an average of 21 hours per week, nominalized, plus or minus 5 hours, or maybe 3.5 hours. And I think the average consumer consumes like, maybe 48 minutes of YouTube per day. So that was kind of a shock. I was like, whoa, what? But it feeds into the narrative. But the point was specifically infinite content, but also losing track of, hey, oh, have you seen this? But where did you get that information? And being like, oh, I can't. Oh, no. How do I speak about what was going on? I don't know. And then trying to use playlists to kind of communicate that to others, to share that as an experience of others. Like when we go on a deep search journey, or the algorithm super serves us something, and we find something really cutting edge, and we just absorb that information, and then we layer it, and then something else comes up, and it keeps on layering and stacking, and we forget where we started. For me, content curation is about mapping that journey out, not just for myself so that I can go back to see what that experience was like for me, but it's also about going forward and sharing it with others and seeing, well, can they follow my trail? Can they gain value from this journey that I've been on in terms of the value that's been offered to me as a YouTube denizen, as a YouTube content consumer. So for me, yeah, this journey totally started with infinite content. It started with me saying, hey, our main pillar on YouTube, again, we'll talk about the 7 pillars of YouTube at another time, but for me, the main pillar was the subscription box. And for all intents and purposes, like, we don't really hesitate. Well, we haven't in the past. After we've reached about 1,000 subscriptions, yeah, we started, maybe we can slow down the velocity a little bit. Maybe we add a video, maybe we add some content for someone else, or put it on a secondary channel, or learning that as technique, as curation technique. But again, to come full circle would be to say, hey, curators exist and we can also monetize it, but we're not really there yet, right? You have to close the loop on attention. You have to close the loop on actually providing value for consumers, to allow people to spend a little bit less time consuming, a little bit less time searching, a little bit more time spent outside of their preferred filter bubble, if that is their goal, right? So many people, they've become accustomed to their filter bubble because, I mean, that's the best content that has been able to be sourced for their needs. But one of the things that we would like to bring forth is to say, hey, well, if we have done our job right, if we have done our job correctly as a content curator, then we should be able to package not just our Consume Digest, but also other people's in the form of a playlist, to be able to serve others, to say, hey, well, in a simple playlist, a cross-section of a different Consume Digest that can give you access to things that if you click on them, if you watch them, depending if your watch history is on or off, or if it's paused, will have an impact on your algorithm. And curating those playlists based on that intent of what that can do for your algorithm, based on that intent of what's totally outside of your Consume Digest, totally outside of your hypergraph, to be able to serve consumers in that context. But first, we have to prove the value proposition of packaging the content that we consume for others. So that's our journey, really. Just saying, hey, if you're looking for content, check out our category-specific playlists. Hey, if you're looking for our internal content, our personal content that we consume, check out our ASAP playlists. Check out our cutting edge. It's like we were so proud when we did our temporal playlist. That's a video in and of itself, where we captured our subscription box for a specific day, for a specific quarter. So I think the last time we closed that loop was in Q1 and Q2 and Q3 of 2024, where we did a playlist for each day of the week and a playlist for the weekend for one quarter. So for Q1, we had 6 playlists for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then for the weekend. And then each day we would graft videos from our subscription box, and then we would order them and structure them so that we could record shorts for that content, for curators out there trying to make the most content with the content that they curate. And then we added that like curated playlist, that structured ASAP Transit playlist, to the main playlist for that specific day, for that specific quarter. And what that did was, well, I mean, that's curation technique, playlist technique in and of itself, because it allows us to burn in stratigraphy. So whereas you would have to manually structure that, now we can structure it beforehand and then click add all to the playlist, and then it becomes burnt into date added. So now, as a content curator, in sharing that experience with consumers, you can actually say, hey, I have a playlist, it's fully structured as a content curator would do, and then publish that and share that. But we can also change it to sort by most popular, and we can also change it to sort by date published. And so that's a really powerful value add in terms of capturing content and repurposing it or restructuring it in ways that benefit consumers in terms of like contextualizing their experience of how they're relating to the content as a journey, right? Like it's just a bundle of content, but what is that like, and what does it look like, and how does that affect how you consume the content? So yeah, back to the story. The story was infinite content. The story was running up on probably 700, high 700s, high 800 subscriptions at the time. And at that point, dealing with news content, the velocity rate of published videos. I mean, we're going to have to do a video on that to show what that experience is like on mobile. Just scrolling. How many swipes does it take to get you 24 hours into the past? How many swipes does it take to get you 48 hours into the past? 72 hours into the past? How many swipes does it take you to get 1 week into your subscription box? For me, that got so arduous, that got so intensive, labor intensive, that fear of missing out started to kick in, because if we didn't manage it consciously, if we didn't manage it consistently, then after a week, after a few days, it would just be gone. That stratigraphy, that content in our subscription box, those subscriptions that we were looking forward to or that we didn't even know published, would be gone. So in many respects, that was the origin of our temporal playlist, to give a way to capture that, to actually be able to go back where YouTube doesn't really allow you to actually cut that specifically to specific periods, right? Especially depending on your velocity rates. You can only scroll back so many times. Same thing with your watch history. That's why I've grown to appreciate having a synthetic watch history. So yeah, that's Diary of a Content Curator. What started you down this path of playlist theory? Well, truly it was my work as a content consumer, just trying to manage this micro breakout cycle, or is it macro breakout cycle? This area of time where information technology has come online, the creator economy has come online, and then, hey, just more content, cheaper storage, infinite publication. Maybe that's the question. How do you deal with infinite publication as a content consumer? For me, that's where playlists came in. I had a way to say, hey, let me offload this. I'm watching a video. What do I do with this video that I want to consume while I'm watching this other video? Can I save this? Can I manage it? Can I come back to it in the future, in the past? Playlist theory. Yeah, it's been a journey. Diary of a Content Curator. How do you manage infinite content? Nice. So yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave things off. Yeah, that's a question. How do you manage infinite content? How do you use playlists? Are you just a content consumer like I was in the past? Are you an aspiring content creator that would like to know how to leverage playlists to better communicate or to inform your audience in terms of storytelling? Are you a content addict like myself, wishing to monetize your consumed digest and thinking, hey, well, I consume fire content as well. People need to see this. And more importantly, people need to talk about this, because there's so much useful content that can benefit people that might not otherwise know that the content exists. So packaging that and sharing that to others. Who are you? Are you a content consumer? Are you a content creator? Are you a content curator? Now, if you're a content curator, let me know. I would love to swap technique. I would love to collab. Let's maybe do a podcast episode. Yeah. Diary of a Content Curator, episode 1.